What is up? Welcome to another edition of Sactown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we are back reviewing a film that is, I believe, still only playing in theaters. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually have a little bit of history with this film. So the film is actually going to be See How They Run. So for me, I actually had the opportunity. I was actually reached out by because it's produced by Searchlight. So they actually, the producers, some producers of the film actually reached out to me directly, just due to our Sactown Movie Buffs background, and offered us free tickets, as well as I think 10 additional tickets as well, of pairs. So basically five pairs basically of tickets. Basically is the way that I should explain it. So it's kind of cool. So I got to run like a little small contest for this and give away tickets because unfortunately it didn't light up the box office as anything that's not Marvel or some major sequel or following or anything like that does. So it was kind of like a marketing piece. So that was kind of cool. So I got to see this movie actually for free. So it was cool because I don't know that I would have necessarily. I probably would have saw it, but I don't know if I would actually saw it in theaters. So it's just kind of cool to be able to, anytime you get an opportunity to catch a movie, not on your own dime, and be able to go to the theaters. Obviously, there's streaming films which you can essentially see for free, but it is always nice to be able to see a film at no cost. So, but I say without further ado, I say we get right into it. So see how they run.
I would just like to point out that that offer from Fox Searchlight came through the day after I paid money to see
I know,
it.
right?
So I got to point out, I got to ask, where were you the day before at Fox
Right,
Searchlight?
I know
right?
I remember you had said, I was like, hey, I just got tickets. You're like, I just saw this movie. I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like Fox Searchlight a day late and made me $1 short. So yeah, I'm just teasing. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, so cool. They did say that they will hopefully reach out to us for more opportunities like that. So we'll see if that happens down the future. It's just the problem is they won't reach out to us until the movie's already probably not doing well because they want to generate more publicity for it. Is I guess is what they're doing. Yeah. So hopefully we do have more down the pipe. But I digress. See how they run. So basically, it's set in London, in the 1950s. So it is kind of near and dear to kind of our hearts because it is deals a lot with the movie industry, I guess, if you will. So the general, I guess, synopsis is actually there's a play that actually is running in London that they eventually want to kind of basically turn into a movie. And so they've, I guess, already have signed on a U.S. Director, if you will, who's played by Adrian Brody, to come over and basically, see the play. And he has intentions to turn it into a movie, but he can't turn it into a movie until essentially the running of the play has ended, basically. So he's kind of incentivized to help, stop the play from basically running, if you will. And so, unfortunately, he's kind of a pompous jerk, if you will. He's very rude to pretty much all the actors and all the stars of the play and things of this nature. And even gets into some basically fights with other actors in the play and things of this nature. And it's not a spoiler, but he basically ends up getting killed during at some point during the play's run or right after the play had finished. He ends up getting murdered. And so
it's the very first scene.
Yeah, the very first scene. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it becomes basically
and he narrates it Sunset Boulevard style, which was cool.
Right. Yeah. So it essentially becomes basically a murder mystery. They know that they have a good feeling that one of the members of the actual cast, in some capacity, is one of the ones that probably murdered him. And there's basically a whole host of basically potential suspects because nobody really liked this guy. He was kind of a jerk. He got into it with the writers. He got into it with some of the actors. He got into it with pretty much everybody. So essentially everybody's a suspect. So they basically call in essentially a detective who's played, or an inspector, I should say. He's played by Sam Rockwell, who is in this film also British as well. And he is basically being led around by kind of like an intern, basically, who's played by, and how do you pronounce her first name?
Shorsha.
Saoirse Ronan. I always get it wrong. Who we know from what Lady Bird
And Brooklyn.
and Brooklyn. Yeah, Lady
Yeah.
Bird and Brooklyn. Yeah. So really, really good actress. Definitely like a lot of the work that she's done. And so basically, it turns into basically kind of like a game of Clue in a nutshell. So it's basically like a kind of a who done it, where they're basically interviewing all the potential suspects and trying to figure out who actually committed this crime. So it's kind of a comedy. I would say mostly a comedy, but it's basically it almost kind of plays like a play in some capacity as well because a lot of it's set in kind of very confined settings for a lot of the film. Um, it's basically like a game of Clue, basically like who did it, who committed the crime, who committed the murder. And like I said, there's a whole host of murders, and then other people end up being dead, and so some of the suspects that you're thinking may have been the suspects, maybe don't make it to the end of the film, so clearly they're not the suspects, and you're trying to figure out basically who did it. Um, I'll just sum it up by saying I did enjoy it. I didn't necessarily love it. I did enjoy it. I've seen a lot of films that follow this kind of similar premise, if you will. I really enjoyed Knives Out, which came out a few years ago. I thought that was a more superior film, in just my personal opinion, than this one was. But I definitely did enjoy this one. I thought it was a fun film overall. It just didn't do a whole lot to like say it was like amazing or just wonderful or great or anything of that nature. It's just a really, really good Clue film. I thought the leads were really good. I thought they had pretty good chemistry. It's definitely funny in parts. It's definitely interesting. There's a lot of twists and turns. I don't want to say it was missing anything, but it just didn't do enough to be like, oh my god, this is an amazing film. I thought it was just good, just in my personal opinion. What were your thoughts, Jason?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this one. I'm a big fan of whodunits, murder mysteries in general. And I love movies about the movie industry,
Right,
and technically this is, I mean, they never get to the point where they're making the movie. It's more about the theater
right,
industry. They're going to make it into a movie.
right.
But basically backstage at the art, arts kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff. I thought all the performances were good, but in particular, I thought Sam Rockwell and Saoirse Ronan were just awesome. They were just, the characters are so likable, even when they're not likable. Even Adrian Brody's great, and he's supposed to be unlikable, but Sam Rockwell and Saoirse Ronan, I thought really knocked it out of the park. They're really good, like mismatched, uh, uh, you know, uh, just kind of like the classic mismatched buddy cops, kind of
Yeah, they were
from the
kind of an odd
50s
pairing
London.
because he was he's kind of like the more established inspector, but he definitely has
Yeah,
his own like quirks and
rough.
issues. Yeah, he drinks and things of this nature. And she's like the rookie, kind of under his wing, but uh, she's a little like rash with her decision making. Like every time a character has a particular motive, she's like, oh well, then he's definitely the one that did it. We should arrest him right now. So she kind of like
Yeah,
jumps the gun a lot, and he's trying to like calm her down and be like, okay, well let's just look at all the facts before we come to any kind of opinions. But she basically fingers like five people about the movie to be the murderer. You know what I mean, kind of situation. And he's
yeah,
more
yeah,
he's more the more level-headed one, but he also has his own quirks and issues as well. So
yeah, yeah. And, it's just like, yeah, it doesn't like reinvent the wheel necessarily. But I like that you can still see movies like this out there, and to me, like, I wish those, it takes a lot from Agatha Christie. It's all based around her play, The Mousetrap.
right,
Um, and honestly, I wish those Kenneth Branagh movies were more like this. Because Kenneth Branagh's had a couple of big hits lately with Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, which I enjoyed those movies for the most part, but they were also, to me, like, I prefer my whodunits more like this and more kind of like down to earth, where those movies were just kind of very big budget
yeah, they're big, elaborate,
CGI.
like
They're just kind of
stage, and yeah,
overblown.
they're like traveling on the Nile River, which is all CGI, of course. But
Yeah,
but yeah, and my issue with those ones is especially the last one, the Death of the Nile. It's like I don't know. I feel like we're like halfway through the film before the death even happened. Versus this one, it happens relatively pretty quick. You know what I mean? So you kind of already know that there's a murder. I mean, we're like, I think you were like at least an hour into the film before anyone even dies in Death of the Nile. So it took a little long for it to even get to the point. You know what I mean? So it was more about like character building. You know, for like the first hour of the film, you know, we got to learn about all the characters and all the players. And I'm just like, well, you could have did all like this one. At least it does. You learn more about the characters after the murder. So, you know, as you're talking to them now, you can kind of see why they might have a murder. You know, you learn about their interactions with Adrian Brody's character, you know, after the murder happened, you know, that, you know, he had an argument with this person. Okay, well, maybe they have definitely motive to kill him. Right. Whereas I feel like in like Death on the Nile, they try to put all the motives up front, kind of a lot of it, you know what I mean? And it just took too long to get to the story. Plus, that film's like, I think, well over 2 hours long. It's pretty long too, I think. So
yeah, they're both just, you know, I didn't hate them or anything, but they're both just very loud and overblown and overwrought. And this one is much more just kind of simple and fun and to the point and lighthearted and just kind of not as gloomy and pompous as those other ones, you know? So, yeah, I don't, you know, I had a lot of fun with it. It had some, you know, a few like kind of meta movie within the movie kind of touches, which I always appreciate that kind of stuff. But it's kind of funny that I saw this the day after I saw Confess Fletch, and back to back, they were just kind of two kind of old fashioned, low key, laid back whodunit movies that I both enjoyed, but I liked this one more than the other one by a little bit. But I'm just glad it's, you know, it's kind of a breath of fresh air. Like you mentioned, like almost everything you see these days is, you know, part of something else, you know, or a sequel or prequel or a reboot or something like that. And it's kind of nice to see, well, I guess the Fletch movie is kind of a reboot too, but you know, it was kind of nice to see just kind of a couple of old fashioned, laid back, simple, funny whodunits. And, you know, I like them both, but especially this one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, overall grade and face you would give this one?
I give it a 4 out of 5, solid B+.
Yeah, I liked it. I'm definitely a little lower. I went with a 3 out of 5. I liked it. It didn't do anything necessarily wrong, but it didn't do anything necessarily to wow me. So it just ended up lands at a 3 out of 5 in this case. It's a big smile. No teeth in this case. But it's not a bad film. I enjoyed it. There's nothing wrong with it. It just didn't do anything that like made it super memorable for me. And more than likely, I'm not going to revisit it. You know what I mean? It's like one of those films like, yeah, that was nice. But, you know, if I want to see a murder mystery film, I feel like there's better ones out there that I would probably gravitate a little bit more than this one is all. So, but, you know, cool. But let us know down in the comments. Have you seen See How They Run? Did you like it? Did you not like it? As always, if you like the channel, we ask that you like, subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification, and we'll be back again with another show for you guys. We thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day.